It started with a single plea, soft, trembling, and impossible to ignore. A little girl looked up at her father and whispered, "Daddy, please help her." Within moments, a quiet single-dad seal was thrust into a confrontation with 5 dangerous men, unknowingly altering the course of his life and drawing the attention of a powerful Marine general. What unfolded next was a journey of courage, healing, and a bond no one saw coming. If you enjoy heartfelt tales of quiet heroes, unexpected miracles, and the kindness that changes lives, we warmly invite you to join our channel. Your support helps us bring more uplifting stories to you every week. Now let's begin this unforgettable journey. The sky over Harper Junction glowed the way only small-town evenings could, soft amber light, folding into deepening blue, the neon trim of the American diner flickering alive, like it had a pulse of its own. It was the hour between dinner and nightfall, when the world slowed just enough to let a man breathe. Dylan Mercer lived for this hour, not because it was peaceful, but because it belonged to his daughter. He stepped out of the diner with 2 grocery bags in one hand and the tiny, trusting fingers of 7-year-old Faye wrapped around the other. Her blonde hair caught the neon glow, giving her a halo that made more than one passerby smile. To Dylan, though she wasn't a little angel, she was the entire universe wrapped inside a cotton dress and scuffed sneakers. "Daddy," she chirped, swinging their arms. "Can we stop by Mrs. Florence's on the way home?" "We already did," Dylan said, lowering his voice as he nudged her gently toward the crosswalk. "She slipped a cookie in your pocket when you weren't looking." Faye gasped, patting her dress until she found the treat. "She's magic." Dylan smiled. "She'd say the same about you." Moments like this were what he fought to protect, quiet, ordinary, unremarkable to the world, but sacred to him. He had spent enough years overseas, wearing a trident on his chest and steel in his veins. These days, he preferred softer things. Lunches packed with handwritten notes, bedtime stories whispered in the half-dark, and a life where danger didn't exist outside of Faye's imagination. At least that was what he hoped. They reached the parking lot, and Dylan scanned the area with the calm habit of someone who had been trained to see what others didn't. Nothing unusual, just a couple of teenagers near the jukebox inside a family loading leftovers. Into their truck, a few men laughing on the sidewalk near a green sedan. Normal. Safe. Predictable. Until Faye stopped walking. Her small fingers tightened around his, not in fear, but in a quiet, startled concern. She looked across the lot, her brows pinching in the way only children could manage, half innocence, half instinct. "Daddy, look." Dylan followed her gaze. At first he saw only the blue van parked under the street lamp. Then the scene sharpened piece by piece, like a lens clicking into focus. 4 men in dark jackets. A 5th standing by the driver's door. Their attention centered on someone, no, on her. A woman in military fatigues, barely in her 20s, shoulders, tense, jaw set. She moved like a trained soldier, but the numbers weren't in her favor. 1 man grabbed her arm. Another stepped in front of her, blocking escape. A 3rd opened the van's sliding door. And then Dylan saw something flicker across the woman's face. Not fear. Not yet. But calculation. Desperation pressed down by discipline. Faye's voice came out as a whisper, fragile, trembling, certain. "Daddy, please help her." A single sentence. 7 small words. And everything inside Dylan shifted. For a split second, the world hung suspended. The neon lights humming, the grocery bags rustling in the evening breeze, Faye's hand trembling in his. Dylan didn't move because he wanted to be a hero. He didn't move because he missed the thrill, or because the seal in him demanded it. He moved because his daughter asked, and because she had never, not once in her life, asked him to protect anyone but herself. "Stay right behind me," he murmured, setting the grocery bags beside a parked car. Faye nodded, trusting him with the absolute certainty only a child could give. Dylan stepped forward, calm, deliberate, unthreatening, a father walking across a parking lot. Nothing more. But beneath the quiet exterior, muscle memory hummed awake. Footwork, angles, breathing. The invisible shift from civilian to protector. When the closest man noticed Dylan approaching, he straightened, trying to look tougher than he felt. "This ain't your business, buddy." Dylan didn't raise his voice. "She told you she doesn't want to go with you." The man smirked. "You got a death wish or something." Behind them, the woman spoke, her voice clipped, controlled. "Sir, please stand back." Dylan gave her a glance, just long enough to let her know he heard her, just short enough to keep his attention on the threat. Her eyes, sharp and desperate, flickered to Faye and softened for half a heartbeat. The man blocking Dylan took a step closer. "Turn around, hero." Dylan didn't. Instead, with quiet precision, he shifted his foot half an inch. It was nothing. It was everything. A repositioning that spoke a language only trained men understood. Two of the thugs noticed. Their expressions changed. The woman noticed too, and something like astonishment crossed her face, as if she suddenly realized the calm man in the green shirt was not just a father with groceries. "Last chance," Dylan said softly. "Walk away." They didn't. Of course they didn't. What happened next unfolded fast, but without chaos, controlled movement, quiet efficiency, the kind of fight that didn't look like a fight at all. Dylan redirected force instead of meeting it. He avoided hurting anyone more than necessary. He positioned himself between Faye and danger at every turn. Seconds later, the woman was no longer trapped. The men were no longer advancing, and the van door slammed shut with frustrated panic. Dylan's breathing stayed steady. The woman's did not. She stared at him as if unsure whether he had just saved her, or revealed a truth she wasn't supposed to see. He reached for Faye, who ran to him without hesitation. "You okay, sweetheart?" She nodded, still wide-eyed. "Daddy." "You saved her." He didn't answer. He wasn't sure he could. Police sirens grew faint in the distance. Someone must have called. The woman in uniform straightened, brushing dirt from her sleeves, steadiness returning to her posture. She stepped closer, voice low but sincere. "Sir, thank you. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't." Dylan shook his head. "Make sure you're safe first." Their eyes met just an instant, but long enough for 3 lives to shift course. Long enough for fate to plant a seed that none of them yet recognized. As Faye held his hand, and the